So the inspiration behind Kafoodle is based on the fact that for 30 years now I've been living with an allergy suffering husband, and over the course of that time he must have had hundreds of attacks, some of them more severe than others. His particular allergy is sesame, and I guess the worst occasion was once when we were 3 years ago now, it was when we were actually in a restaurant with a whole group of family and friends, and we made a big point of telling the waiting staff that Ron had got this allergy, and they had come back and said to us that basically everything was safe except for one particular dish. So Ron kind of attacked his meal with gusto. 15 minutes later, out cold on the floor, anaphylactic shock. He was there for about an hour and a half. It was terrifying. Most of the family thought he'd had a heart attack because it was so severe, and they hadn't realised just how serious this allergy was. After having gone through that experience and all of the experience over the years, I thought that it would be absolutely awesome to do something about this. And having come from a technology background myself, where we've built various different kind of proprietary frameworks and systems for businesses, I thought that it would be absolutely amazing to be able to build a really simple to use system for kitchens to be able to manage their ingredients, their recipes, their menus, including all of the allergen information, and then to be able to have that kind of as a live feed that firstly helps with the front of house, because front of house can then just literally go onto a tablet and check the direct information that's coming straight from the kitchen. But then it would be really a shame to have all of that great information and not share that with your diners. Knowing that to actually build the system, it needed to come from the industry up. It's okay being a technologist, but you actually have to have somebody on the board that is really an industry expert. So I had known Tarryn for a long time, and I knew how amazing she was. So when I approached her with the idea, we had a really animated conversation about how she could revolutionise the industry and I could actually create trust so we could all eat safely, and decided that it was a match made in heaven. My ultimate aim for this is to get to a stage where we can create a trust, and that ultimately people will be able to go into a Kafoodle restaurant that's using the system and use the app and find safe menus for them and ultimately eat with confidence.
Kafoodle to me it's about revolutionising the industry. I've been in love with this industry since I was pretty much 6. I came over to London, started at Conran, and I've stayed, and I enjoy it. And for me, in 2001 we embraced websites. 2003 we were the first businesses to do online bookings, way before hotels and spas. And for me now, we've always been a bit worried about technology. We don't trust it. We will all know those Saturday nights when we were 4 deep at a bar and the PDQs crashed because the connections went down and you couldn't take payments and you were writing IOUs. Technology and hospitality, it's never been a symbiotic relationship. It's always been a very, very turbulent road. And for the first time, when I met my business partner and sitting with Kim and talking about it, you realize that actually what technology can do for an industry, especially for the hospitality industry, it's unbelievable. And I think for me, I've always been concerned that hospitality is all about the people. It's the waiters, it's the bartender. We all go to that bar because the bartender knows what our favorite is and he might be cute. And we've always relied on that. And for me, I never thought technology had a place in hospitality because it would get rid of the human element. Where actually what my main goal with what we're doing with Kafoodle and with what we're doing with technology worldwide is giving the humans the power and the knowledge to really excel at their jobs. It's just about not having to know everything like the back of your hands, just knowing how to do your job and having technology back it up. If you think about what technology does for all other industries, it's really about time that the hospitality industry and the tourism industry jumped on board and completely embraced it, and the sales and marketing potential that there is around all of it.
Well, I was diagnosed with celiac disease about 8 years ago now, and I was really sick for kind of a period of about 9 months while the doctors were trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And they eventually thought it might be a food allergy, so I started cutting different foods out of my diet. And then when I hit upon gluten, I was instantly fine as soon as I cut it out of my diet. And since then, I've been fine as long as I don't eat it.
I have an upset tummy and I am sick and Mummy gets me a bowl. And then after I've been sick, I sit on the sofa, usually.
There's so many apps out there that tell you there's a restaurant nearby, but none of them that I know of will tell me if it's suitable for me as a celiac disease sufferer. And I think the most difficult part about going to a restaurant is actually being able to trust that what they say on their menu or online is correct. And the fact that with Kafoodle, there's a direct line to the kitchens and the chefs, and if something changes, if on the day they had an ingredient that they wouldn't normally put in that dish, but they did, their regular menu wouldn't reflect that, but Kafoodle would. And so I think that would help me trust a little bit more in going to a restaurant, yeah.
If you had an app, if you had your own phone and you pressed an app, and then it would tell you what restaurant you could eat in and what foods you could eat that were all gluten-free. That would be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should the industry embrace this legislation? Yes, to an extent. People need to know, certainly when they go out, the amount of people that, well, I'm not saying have died, but certainly anaphylactic shocks with regards to not getting right information when they order will mean that a lot more people won't go out and eat. Therefore, it can only help. There is an aspect of red tape for the sake of red tape. It does mean that you do need to be on top of your menus. You need to be on top of what ingredients go into your menus. Therefore, it's not just your chef, but it's also your suppliers that come through, which does add to the workload. But ultimately, if you're in the business of food and drink and you're in the business of hospitality, then it's your right and it's what you have to do in regards to business, is to look after your customers, because then hopefully they'll come back with repeat custom.
To a certain extent, we have to follow what legislation says because we have to follow it. But I think we have to put the systems in place so that as chefs, we can embrace it and it doesn't become a laborious, large part of our day, just trying to work out what the intolerance is, what the calorie content is, and then also having to build the information to pass it on, because we don't talk to the customers direct most of the time. Yes, I will talk to customers, but most of the time it's a second, third, fourth party, and they still have to have the exact information that's correct. And we can't cover menus with calories, it's vegan, it's not this, it's not that. We've got to be able to give the tools so they can get the information quickly.
To try and find the information in a format that is generic across all mediums is very difficult. I can only say to you, look at the major food networks with regards to Sainsbury's and Asda's. They label their food differently on the back. They've not even come up with a unified traffic light system, if you like. So it's very difficult. However, the information is there. It does take a long time because I don't think the suppliers themselves really understand what their roles are in it. The government have pushed this through and it's come out and we're all sort of fishing around between each other. So there's no general medium, if you like, that one can go to. Some come through on PDF, some come through on Excel. So it is an awful lot more number crunching, again, which adds obviously to the supplier's point of view. But once they get over this hurdle, you know, it's only a matter of time. It will be in place, and I imagine from years from now, it will just be the standard norm. As calories are on a bacon roll, obviously allergens will be there as well.
The main thing the waiters struggle with is remembering what dish has what. And quite often, people talk about allergens in a different way. People say, I'm celiac, or I'm gluten-free, or I don't eat bread. So they talk about it differently from person to person. So the waiter doesn't always understand what the answer should be. So what we're trying to get to stage is when they want to find the information, that they can get to it really quickly, the same place every time. While I'm costing my dish, which has got every ingredient, I need something that highlights allergens instantly. So as soon as I do that dish, I know I've got these 5 allergens. When I've built my recipe, I've got my 5 allergens, they're there in the system. It also makes it simple because rather than lots of people thinking, what is the allergen? If I've built it in the beginning, classic example is Worcester sauce. Worcester sauce contains fish. 99% of people will not know. If they're coming from a foreign country, they still won't know. But this system will automatically throw it up. And then if this system can link up to the front of house, they can look up the dishes, they can look at tablet on the floor, which most restaurants these days have tablets. They can see instantly, right, I'm going to look at a dish, it's got Worcester sauce, I can see it's got all these allergens, gluten, it's got fish, and it's got sort of fish in the sauce. So it really narrows down the allergen problem and it gets it straight out there. Especially after sort of 2 years down the line, a dish is still on the menu, the staff might have changed dramatically, they can still get the same information. That's what we need to get to next. And then I only do the allergen once, then my job's done.
Certainly from my point of view, there's a lot of effort to go into in the beginning, but then anything you set up is from the start. What it does do for me, certainly, allows a cloud-based option with Kafoodle that I can go in and pick up all the menus and all the dishes I've previously had and still have the recipes and the allergens there. Certainly with my chefs, I've had a few chefs work for me previously. They take their own recipes away with them when they leave, when they move on, and therefore you end up having to change your menu, or certainly change what's in your menu. This way you've obviously got a complete catalogue of what's been through your kitchen, what's come out of your kitchen, and therefore you can make it seasonal. Obviously, as an example, bangers and mash are off because it's now in the middle of summer. If we got into winter, they would come back on. And the onion gravy would need, obviously, that as an allergen if we start using a different kind of chicken stock. So it allows you to keep track of everything without having the chefs themselves too bogged down with paperwork.
We believe that doing a specific low-calorie, gluten-free menu option means a much better level of service to our customers. People are making that much more of a demand, especially when they're coming into London. They're being much more precise with exactly what food they want to put into themselves. So we need to make sure that to improve the CRM and the customer journey throughout Home House, we're flexible and we show that flexibility. So having this knowledge on our system that can tell us whether John Smith is allergic to X, Y, and Z means that they get a much better experience when they land in the restaurant rather than getting something put in front of them that's not suitable for them. So it's a marketable opportunity.
The marketing point of view with the Kafoodle app is, from my experience, it's done on location. So the person's there looking at lunch, where to go, they input their dairy allergens, and it will show what restaurants are around that they can go to. And that, I think, is key before people come to the restaurant, because there's nothing worse than coming to the restaurant and going, oof, where's the vegetarian wheat-free options? And there's just 2. You want to be able to turn around and go, let's go to the bowler, because they've got 4 different options on there, and therefore you know before they get there. Since obviously the legislation came out and the government have stipulated we now need to show our allergens in our food, there's been a lot more people coming in asking for our sheets. And obviously that's a mixture of people wanting to know exactly what's in there, because now there's a lot more people aware. I assume there's a couple just seeing if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. But the number of places I've been do have them. The Kafoodle app I'm using at the moment is a digital version that comes on an app. We've got a tablet behind the bar that we can go and show people at the restaurant. It means that my print costs have gone down vast amounts. We can use certainly the digital media presence, and it gives everyone a little bit more confidence than just having a sheet on the wall that's got an X in it if it's got eggs, or like a Y in it if it's got sulfates.